So folks, on this video I'm going to show you how to convert your 12 volt accessory port, quote unquote, cigarette lighter on your Honda four-wheeler into a USB charger. Okay, first thing I've done was I took my fender off, or not my fender, but I took my side piece off right there, and I removed my gas tank. All right, that allows me to get behind the port. Okay, I held the front of that cigarette port still with I clamped that on there to hold the front. First thing I did was I unhooked my battery. All right, see down there, my battery. That's the first thing you want to do, unhook your battery. All right, then I held on to the front with vice grips. Then I was able to get to the back. I'll show you that in a minute with this right here to undo the big nut on the back. All right, under here, I'll show you. You got to go underneath the front. Go underneath the front of the bike. And right up in here in the wiring harness. See that wire? Hang on. Camera's going wonky on me. See that wire right there? That's got nothing, no plug in it. Unplug that wire right there. This one. Once you get that wire unhooked, you can pull all that out this way. It comes out from the front. Okay, your nut will come off from the back. Okay, there's your retainer nut. To get all that out, that's gonna have to come, that wire's gonna have to come through there anyway. That goes on there like, let me show you how it all looks assembled when it's on the bike. Okay, this is back there behind there like that. All right, and that's what holds that against that plastic. So I have my vice grips here holding this while I reach behind there. Turn your handlebars all the way to the left, I think I had, or the right. Either way, turn your handlebars one way or the other to help you get up in there and start undoing this. Once that is loose, then go down and unhook your wires. Okay, unhook your wires, pull all that through to the front. It should come right on through to the front. This might stay in there, I don't know. Mine came through anyway. And take notice to how this goes back in. There's holes on one side and not in the other. Okay, that's going to be on that side. Now, this right here, this plastic piece that's around here, this trim piece right here, comes off. Okay, but it's a dog to get it off. Go right in there. I don't know if you can see that. Right in there, right in between there. Just start prying it, and you got a little notch in there that makes it only go on one direction. Okay, see that little notch right there? That little notch goes on that little notch. All right, when you get ready to put it back together, if you put this back together this way, I doubt you will, because when you see what I'm fixing to do, whoops, you're gonna want to do what I'm fixing to do. All right, there's your piece of shit. All right, that's your piece of shit. This is what I bought, which is probably also a piece of shit, but I bought this on eBay, or Amazon, sorry. This is USB-C on the top, regular USB on the bottom. Here's a power button right over here, and in the middle it's going to be a voltmeter. It's going to show me how many volts I have. Okay, let's take that off of there. On the back of it, you've got silver and copper or brass. All right, see that? Silver is your positive side. It tells you right there on it, negative, positive. All right, just so happens that fits perfectly inside of my trim panel. All right, that's wonderful. Now I will go ahead and put this back on, which is going to hold that against that. And what's going to hold that against everything Okay, what happens then is you go ahead and put the locking nut, retainer, whatever you want to call that, back on that came with your whichever USB port or whatever accessory port you decide to use. This just happens to be the one I decided to use. Now I need to orientate that correctly so it's up and down, because this flat spot is the bottom and you want your flap to be at the top also, so these things line up and they go in those holes. This is what keeps water and mud out of that. Okay, you want water and mud to stay out of here, so that goes on there and snaps on. So make sure you get all that lined up just right. And what we're going to do is we're going to clip this wire, and this wiring harness is going to be clipped off. We're going to cut it right here as close as we can to that, and then we're going to put a couple of ends on there, which are going to slide right on here. Okay, be back in a minute. This is what you're going to need. There's 2 of those things. Now this is the wiring harness that was provided with that. Now instead of me having to cut these off and resolder and everything, I'm just going to go to Ace and buy a couple of those and solder them onto this new wire. I mean this old wire. And we'll be back after I get back from Ace, and I'll show you that part of the process. All right, folks, that's what I got right there. They call this a spade connector, but that's what it looks like at Ace. And for this size wire, you probably want the 22 to 16 gauge. They call it a female disconnect. Anyway, I'm just going to solder that onto my wire. Solder 2 of those onto my wire, and it'll be plug and play. Okay, now there's no need for a fuse in here. A fuse came with this little wiring bundle that came with the charger, or whatever we want to call it, the USB port. There's no need for that because this is hooked to it's already got a fuse panel on the 4-wheeler. So this should come on and off whenever we turn on the key. And it even tells you in the paperwork that comes with the little USB thing that there's no need for vehicles. It is recommended to get power from the fuse box, while for motorcycles it's better to connect the wires directly to the key switch. Okay, that's right, that's what I got. It's going straight to the key switch, which goes to the fuse panel. All right, if you want to read the directions, folks, on this thing, y'all can go ahead and just pause that right there. All right, and read that. I'm not going to sit here and read it to you. I don't need this. I'm pretty experienced with electrical stuff like this. So if you have any questions, you can comment below and I'll be happy to try to answer your questions. So now I'm going to get my little soldering kit out, and I just use a little torch like that. It's a little propane or butane. It's a butane. I think I'm using butane in there. A butane torch. I have some rosin core solder. Very small stuff. It's really pretty small. You know, it's really small. Anyway, let me get to work on this, and we'll be back for the next step. Let me just add to this little clip that these connectors are made where you just put that wire in there. You can smush this red part, the insulation, with a pair of pliers or some crimpers that are made special for this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and wire mine in with solder, because this is a 4-wheeler and there's going to be lots of bumps. So I would suggest that if you don't have a soldering iron or you don't know how to solder, go ahead and just crimp it, and that should, you know, do you for a little while. But if something happens and it don't work, then it's probably shook loose. I suggest soldering it. All right, folks, I got that soldered up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to my bike. I'm going to plug this back in. I'm going to use my voltmeter to establish which one is negative and which one's positive, and I'll let you know that, so you won't have to do what I do, because I didn't check it before I unplugged it. Let's get ready to put this stuff back together. Okay, I went ahead and hooked my wiring harness up at the other end down underneath the front here, and I got my voltmeter set to DC 20 volts. Okay, see that? 20 volts. I got these separated. Make sure you keep those separated. Now, key on. Let's touch that and see what we get. Okay, it's negative. Okay, so I got it backwards. White is going to be your positive. The green is going to be your ground, your negative. You see how that came up? That tells, see that negative sign next to it? That means I got negative. That means I got it hooked up backwards. All right, let's go ahead and hook it up. Now, this tells me what I need to do is put white as my positive. All right. I don't know if y'all can see what I'm doing here or not. There we go. White's gonna be my positive. Turn the key back off. Unhook the battery. Okay, like I said, make sure you got it straight up and down. Take this piece off. That piece with the holes in it, take that piece off. That's gonna go from behind. Go ahead and put that in there. Put that behind it. Put that piece behind it. Get it in place. And then take your ring. Okay? Can y'all see that? Take your ring and go on ahead and go back there behind there and screw that on. That's gonna hold everything where you want it. Go ahead and put that in place. Now, tighten it up with your hand real good. Being sure to keep this straight up and down, because that little dust cap is also supposed to be a water cap, but I'm not gonna trust it to keep water out. I'll do something different. Well, maybe it's gonna be a different video. Okay, but on the back side, those plastic threads that I just threaded that onto, to make sure that that doesn't come off while I'm going down the bumps, I'm gonna heat up a little hot glue and just rub that hot glue stick onto those threads. So get your lighter, heat up your hot glue stick, just like that. Reach back there and hit them threads with it right up against that nut, that right up against it. Now you can use thread locker on here if you want, but I want to get it back off easily. So if I want to get it back off easily, all I got to do is reach up in there with a lighter and heat up that glue, and that nut will come right off. That retaining nut. So put a little bit of that hot glue right there. Ta-da! That's gonna keep it from backing out. That's a little trick right there from a redneck. That's redneck Loctite right there. Alrighty, folks. Now that's what we got. That's what we got right there. That's how it looks. That's how it's installed. It's installed in the same place that the other one was. Okay, we're gonna wire it up and we'll be back here in a minute. I'll plug the wires in, put my four-wheeler back together, and see how she works. All right, folks, I got everything put back together. Now, don't forget to run you some zip ties around your wire underneath here to make sure it doesn't rub up against anything that you don't want it to rub against to. But let's flip this up. Now, I'll go ahead and just set the camera right here so we can see what happens. Now, this one has an on-off switch and a voltmeter. The top is USB-C, the bottom is just regular USB. Let's turn my key on. All right, keys on. Hit the power button right here. I have 12.5 volts in my battery. Now I have 14. That means my shit's charging. All right. I don't need to charge anything right now, so I can go ahead and, whoops. I can go ahead and turn that off when I'm not using it. Close up the dust cover. And there you go, folks. The job's done. And it looks professional. It looks better than the crap that Honda had on there, I'll tell you that. You don't need that no more. You don't need that no more. Throw them away. Thanks for watching, folks. Redneck's Gone Wild. This has been another how-to from Lunatic, your local redneck YouTuber.